So in the last video, the first in the series, Joe and I set off for our passage, traversed Lake Ontario and sailed down the St. Lawrence River to Quebec City. We were stranded in Quebec City for 8 days, waiting for the winds to change in our favor. So Joe and I have been in Quebec City here for a week now. There's worse places to be stuck. There's shops where we can get everything that we need, supplies, parts, beautiful parks. Like the one I'm in, we've been able to come and walk through the parks every day, or almost every day when it's not raining. And we're waiting for the wind to change so that we can sail further down the river. But the stop has actually been very helpful to both of us. Before we got here, we had some issues with breakdowns of the boat. The wind turbine broke, there was a leaky water tank, we lost the AIS antenna. And those things were, I think, bugging Joe more than me. For me, it was getting to know somebody in a new living situation where we're living close together in confined space. Dodging the ship traffic in the channel, the challenge of, especially as we got closer to Quebec City, the challenge of the tides and navigating through that. It was all very stressful and new. But having spent a week now in Quebec City, being able to get some exercise has been psychologically really helpful to both of us. At one point, actually, when we first got here, we were actually discussing how we could abort if we needed to. But we've gone over that, realized that the journey is as much a psychological challenge as it is physical. We're feeling much better about it. The wind is supposed to start changing tomorrow, so we're taking off first thing in the morning. We finally got the promised shift, and on the evening of June 20th, we set off down the river. We had spectacular evening views of downtown Quebec City, including the famous Chateau Frontenac. We were also treated to music from a floating party cruise just past the city. After motoring with the outgoing tide much of the night, we struggled to make headway against a reversing tide, so we anchored 32 miles downriver at a point named Cape Torment at about 5 a.m. After just 4 hours of sleep and some battery charging, we picked up anchor at 9 a.m. There was still no wind, but at least we had the tide back with us and we continued to motor. We spent a few more hours anchored next to the ferry dock at Bay St. Paul to wait out another incoming tide. As we left the Bay St. Paul anchorage, the wind finally started filling in behind us and we were able to sail continuously through the tidal ebbs and flows. It also helped that the tidal current diminished as we got into the wider and deeper portions of the river. We mostly had 10 to 15 knots of tailwind as we rounded the top of the Gaspé Peninsula, but we did have a few gusts up to 27 knots. We also had a return of the smoke from the wildfires in Quebec. On June 24th, we had light and variable conditions as we struggled to make way into the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Joe was on watch when we got a visit from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Their mount was an inflatable boat.
Can I ask why?
Your safety equipment.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How many persons?
Can I just let Dan, the captain, know? Yeah.
And I'm not certain what the objective was. Maybe looking for smugglers.
I was hoping to eat some.
I've heard there's a human trafficking issue
But it
between
was like
Canada
all
and the
burgers and
US.
pizza.
Apparently Canadians are very tired of free
Yeah, that's
healthcare.
what I.
In any event, they conducted a safety inspection. Flares, check. Life jackets, check. Fire extinguishers, check. All good, and they went on their way.
Au revoir. Bye.
The next day, the winds began to build from east-northeast and with it came the waves. We were taking them on the beam, which made for a rough ride, and Joe got the worst of the motion sickness. Finally that evening, with a high seas warning from the Canadian Coast Guard, I decided that it was getting too dangerous and headed downwind to ease the pressure on the boat and crew. By morning, the conditions had eased and we could resume our course towards the Canso Channel. But just as we were rounding the eastern tip of Prince Edward Island, it became clear that wind was about to shift 180 degrees and put the channel out of reach at least for a few days. So we tucked into Souris Harbor on Prince Edward Island to wait it out. We weren't able to reach anyone at the marina before entering, so we took the first open dock we could find. The next morning I found out the marina is officially closed because many of their floating docks had been damaged during Hurricane Fiona. Fortunately, the man that told me this, Sam, had some connection to the marina, I think just a long-time customer, and he was kind enough to give us a key to the showers for our stay. He also advised an extra line to the pier because the docks were not well secured. Wow, I'm humbled by the kindness of people we meet. So here we are in Souris, Prince Edward Island, waiting for our chance to cross the Northumberland Straits to Nova Scotia. Joe was able to climb the mizzen mast to untangle the mizzen halyard from the wind turbine.
All right, ready?
Yep.
I'm gonna do a run and then stop.
All right.
Hey, turn it. Oh, go. Okay, sitting.
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go up any higher?
Yeah, I just need a break.
All right.
Okay, a little more. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
It's a relief to have the mizzen sail down. Under the right circumstances, having a partially deployed mizzen sail with no way to either raise it completely or to lower it could have been very dangerous, not to mention that it would have eventually ripped the sail to shreds. Also, I noticed a missing pin connecting the front of a sail batten to the slide in the mainsail track, which was easily replaced. But the biggest casualty of our Gulf of St. Lawrence crossing was our confidence in taking Marcelina and ourselves offshore. So after some reflection and frank conversations, we've decided not to cross the North Atlantic this season. Our current plan is still to pass through the Canso Channel, but then head back west towards the coast of Maine. It's against the prevailing winds, so it'll take some time to get there. But once we're there, we can reassess whether we want to put some more miles under the keel to gain experience and confidence, or just tuck the boat away for the winter and resume our efforts next year. It was a tough call to postpone the crossing, but one that we both think is a smart choice. So it looks like our stay in Souris will be about a week. There's less to do in this quaint little town. In the first 2 days, we've already visited the lighthouse overlooking the harbor entrance and eaten in most of the restaurants. Other than that, there really isn't much to do but fish off the pier, take naps, read, and put together sailing videos. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope the next episode will be coming to you from back in the USA. Thanks.